what time it is? It is time for another episode of the Show. I'm Aaron, and as always, I'm joined by my cousin and partner in pop culture crime, Landon. How's it going, man?
Good day. I'm doing good. Doing good. It's nice and sunny now, but
Yeah,
it wasn't so much, like Thursday night, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the closet during a tornado warning. Was not bright
always fun.
sunny. Yeah.
Always fun. Yeah, we folks out there who you may be listening to this from different parts of the United States or heck, different parts of the world, but we got a little visit from Helene. Was it Helene was her name,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
hurricane? Yeah. Um Obviously not as bad as, down in Florida and along the Gulf Coast where Helene made landfall, but we
A lot
did
of
get,
people
gosh,
really, a lot of people were really impacted pretty bad.
yeah, we had tornadoes up here, and gosh, this part of Virginia hardly ever sees tornadoes. So
Yeah.
it was a rough weekend. Lots of flooding, lots of wind, but hopefully things are on the mend now. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss out on our latest content. We really appreciate your support, and those little things, it doesn't feel like it's a big deal to like something, but man, I tell you what, apparently it puts us in the algorithm somewhere. I don't know. All right, so last week we took a deep dive into the first season of My Adventures with Superman. But for those who might be joining us for the first time, let me give you a quick little recap. The show follows young Clark Kent as he's just starting out as Superman. He is hanging out with his best friends, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. They're both, uh, all three of them, just starting to work for the Daily Planet. It's a fresh take on the Superman mythos, blending superhero action with a kind of a slice of life kind of comedy. Today, we're going to be discussing season two, which just recently aired on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network, and then, of course, hits the Max streaming service the next day. So, Landon, are you ready to take flight with the Man of Steel once again?
I am. And just 1 week from when we did this last time. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. I binged, of course, the second season this week. And funnily enough, like the first season, it took a few episodes to get into the action. You know, I think they do a lot of lighthearted setup, but then you get about, I don't know, 4 episodes in, 5 episodes in, and then it's just full steam ahead.
Oh
No
yeah,
backing down, straight on all the way to the end.
yeah.
And I really like this season, especially because of Michael Emerson. Good gravy, he's amazing.
I was gonna say, yeah. We'll start with some of those big additions to the cast this season. Of course, we got Supergirl, we got Brainiac, we've got John Henry Irons, aka Steel, showing up. Uh, what do you think about how they introduced these characters?
I thought it was great. There on the last season we talked about how what they did with Mixius was pretty cool. The Brainiac look was not like my favorite look. But I am so used to different other versions of him. But I thought it was pretty cool. I thought the Supergirl edition Kara was great. I thought that was really, really awesome. Yeah, I loved it. What about you?
Yeah, so Supergirl in particular, I was really intrigued by her origin in this version.
Right.
Instead of her being this plucky cousin who shows up to help Superman, she has been manipulated by Brainiac for years, and so we get this darker take on her character. And actually, I really thought it added a lot to her story and added some depth to her character.
Yeah, me too.
Um, yeah, well, I was gonna say, what did you think about that twist that
Yeah.
where she is actually working for the bad guy?
I thought it was great. I mean, you're used to it being about Zor-El, and them being commonly in line, but it introduced Brainiac well too. I think sometimes you can have such a very basic character for him, and this is not just like world domination. It's more than that. It gets personal. because of Kara. Versus, Brainiac, whether I'm playing from DCUO or in the comics or other ways that we've seen Brainiac, it's just about, fulfilling and dominating, and it's just this overarching thing. And that's still here, don't get me wrong, but by him manipulating her, it made it a personal thing,
Yeah.
and I think that was really cool. I did think that it was a little weird. Yeah, Michael Emerson cannot help but throw in his sarcasm and his the way that he talks. And Brainiac is, machine ish, you know what I mean? So very logical based machines. There were times when Michael Emerson would get irritated in a way that I thought was beyond the scope of what Brainiac is from the way that I've seen him, but it was easily bypassed because of how much I love Michael Emerson. So,
Yeah, that was gonna be actually my next point was talking about Brainiac and just the fantastic voice work by Michael Emerson.
amazing.
She's his voice with that tinge of kind of robotic filter to it.
Yeah.
It was just so chilling, and it brought this like presence to his character. It's like, yeah, you're right. This is not a Brainiac we've ever seen before. This is a different version. Obviously we have had origins of Brainiac that come from Krypton, as this one has. But I mean, I think I'm with you. I think my favorite versions of Brainiac have been, where he's the green skinned Koluan alien who collects cities and collects knowledge from across the galaxy and or across the universe, and you know stores one city from each planet and then destroys the planet, so that he has that particular um I guess a monopoly on that species knowledge.
Right, right,
um that's, when I think of Brainiac, that's the Brainiac I go to in my head.
right.
Not to complain, I'm not saying that this was bad. I think for the
It's just
for the
different.
tone that this show is going for, I think that it fits well for him to be this um robotic, I mean obviously anime inspired villainous AI. But again, Michael Emerson's voice thrown in there, it's like, okay, am I hearing Brainiac or am I hearing Benjamin Linus?
You're hearing Benjamin Linus from Lost. Of course you are. Oh my gosh. The last season when we talked about it, I was all about Jack Quaid. This is all about Michael Emerson this time.
All
Just
right.
now there was like a an interesting when he reveals about being the cause of Krypton's destruction. That was interesting. I think there have been takes like that through the comics, right? It's not just
Mhm.
always been a planet blowing up. That's been there's been other ones like that too, right? Where it's Brainiac's fault.
Yeah, it depends on, again, who's telling the story, right? I think your most traditional versions would be like what we had in the movie, where the planet itself is unstable and is falling apart and will explode. There have been some versions where it's the red sun that goes supernova and destroys the
Right,
planet.
right,
But there are also those takes where General Zod has done something that caused the planet to
right.
be destroyed. And then there's the ones where it's Brainiac. He comes, he collects Kandor, and leaves behind a some kind of destructive force that destroys the entire world.
Yeah.
Um, so you see different versions of it. Again, it depends on what period in history we're talking about, which version of Superman's origin we're talking about, um, because it's been done and redone over and
Yeah.
over again.
And I was fine with it. I mean, I thought it was okay. The different Jor-Els that you see over time are very interesting too. Like this one's like, I don't know, like he's like a Russian dictator who actually turns out to have a soft side, right?
Right.
It's a very interesting take. I did feel like this season You remember that show that we watched when we were kids, that Legend of Zelda that would come on Fridays that we talk about sometimes?
Oh yeah,
That cartoon, right? And he'd be like, "Excuse me, princess." Remember how he'd say that all the time?
yeah.
This is how I felt about Lois and Superman, Lois and Clark's interaction regarding needing to talk about something.
Oh my
Like
gosh. Look,
it
the entire
happened,
half of the season, it was just like,
half of the
come on, you
season
two.
was I know the whole they're just constantly like, "Oh, we need to talk." "Oh no, nothing, nothing, nothing. It's fine. We'll talk
Right.
later."
No, it'll wait. It'll wait.
And I
And you
thought,
keep putting it off.
I
Just
got
say
it.
something.
Yeah, I got it. And it wasn't that big of a deal either way. I
No.
just I think that it was a little too much, you know.
And then
So
Lois decides to break up with him because they don't talk enough.
yeah,
Just have a conversation. You're standing there face to face. There's something I really need to tell you, but I
yeah.
don't have time right. You're right there. Just say it.
Yeah,
Say it.
my critique of this season would be this was a step back on the character dynamic between the three.
Yeah.
The first season did it well, and it could have gone to more. Not that there's not going to be disruption. The fact that you got three people, and then you have this, you know, what happened in the last one, you know what I mean? The season where where Jimmy was feeling isolated and all that's normal going to happen. But this season, I don't know. It just felt like they were taking a step back. Love that Jimmy and Kara have a thing. Thought that was really cool. Love that they introduced Hank, or not introduced. I don't know if they introduced or had him last season, but love that they further added with Hank Henshaw into it a bit more.
Yeah.
Because
We
that's
definitely
just
we got a glimpse of him.
that's good.
So that's gonna be the question. Like, do we get a cyborg Superman in season three?
And how would you, unless you go Doomsday, right? You can't. I don't think you can. I would say they in this cartoon world that will make up anything could, but it would be a little difficult for me if all of a sudden we get a cyborg Superman that didn't wasn't opportunistic after Superman's death.
Well, remember in the comics, Hank Henshaw existed before Doomsday.
I know, but he went up to the thing on the little space trip up there, right? But he didn't become I mean, his whole idea of cyborg Superman was him being opportunistic in the
Right.
death of Superman. So
Yeah.
while he existed to be able to do that, it's you'd have to deviate on how he chose to pretend to be Superman. You know,
If you don't have Doomsday, your writers just have to get creative with how does he use the opportunity to come in as Cyborg Superman when Superman is still there.
right? Exactly.
So
So there is that, though. I do like seeing him. It's always like, oh, cool. You know,
yeah. Yeah, it was a neat little I don't know. I don't think I'd necessarily call it an Easter egg that he shows up there for that. What was it, the like Bachelorette kind of
yeah.
episode there? And there was one of the girls there she had was it Silver St. Cloud?
Who's she?
So she exists in the Batman comics. She was at one point, I think, a love interest for Bruce,
Uh,
and even figured out that he was Batman.
uh,
This was back in the 70s, I want to say. Um, but they never went anywhere with it.
oh
Like
yeah.
she was in several issues, and they were really close.
Everybody
Um,
just like the idea of Selena Kyle better.
I mean, it's
Well,
Catwoman.
it's interesting though that because they have brought in, I mean, Vicky Vale as being in
Mhm.
there. That's an interesting addition. I wouldn't be surprised if next season they introduce Bruce Wayne, into it,
Yeah,
especially
I
since they're
would like
doing
to see them to expand,
quickly.
a little bit. I mean, don't go crazy with it because it is
Right,
still, it's Superman, but it'd be interesting to see uh other Justice Leaguers show up and meeting Superman for the first time.
right,
Um, but that's just, I think that's the comic geek in me wanting to see these stories told and retold.
right,
Um, because that's just I love those ideas of all right, so in this world where we've got this kind of Superman, how does he interact with Batman?
right. Yeah,
Right?
this
How does
especially because he's young. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He's young.
he's
He's not like
naive.
He's naive, he's young, he's definitely not an authority figure, in any shape or form at this point. Um, I thought it was also interesting the focus on live wire and heat wave, especially the different version of heat wave, right? It's heat wave,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's yeah. So, but I thought that they built the story of sacrifice and that change pretty good. That was pretty strong how they put that. I mean, I got to say the last 3 episodes especially felt so like building, so much building. And I don't know how much you liked it, but I really liked the episode where Clark was in the alternate, in his mind. He was in the alternate Krypton, with
Yeah.
his parents. I thought that was really cool. Um to kind of see. I don't know that I've seen anything like that before. I'm sure there is something in the comics, but where it's as if he had grown up there. I thought that was really cool.
Okay, go back and go on DC Infinite on
Yeah,
the where you got the access to comics. But I believe it's Superman annual. It's pre-crisis. I can't remember what number it is. But I'm pretty sure it's got Mongol on the cover, and the story is for the man who has everything. It is one of the best Superman stories ever written.
really.
Um, I mean, it's so good. So it's basically I don't want to give it away because I want you to go read it. But it's I believe Batman, Robin, and Wonder Woman are going to the Fortress of Solitude to celebrate Superman's birthday. And they get there, and he has been overtaken by the Black Mercy um, plant that Mongol likes to use to subdue his enemies. And this Black Mercy, what it does is it takes the um it it puts its victims in like this comatose state where in their mind they're living out their fantasy life.
Oh, really?
And so that part of that fantasy life for Superman in this story was him living his life as a Kryptonian on Krypton with a
Wow,
family, and like it's a really good story.
that's cool. I'll have to check it out. I'll have
But
to
I
check
think
it out.
that's where they get that kind of trope where if you ever see where Superman um is in an alternate reality and he's living his life on Krypton, it
Yeah,
basically it stems from that
that's
old
cool.
story.
No, that's cool. What do you think about the Lois and her dad dynamic?
I was actually about to ask you the same thing. Uh at first I thought it was a little annoying. I mean, having him staying with Clark and Jimmy, it's like why are we doing this?
I would
This
not.
is
No, it's kind of out of there.
no. I do like how they handled her relationship with the general.
Yeah,
Um, I
and
think
then
it
like
added
the
a new layer to her
flashbacks.
character.
Yeah,
Um, it gives us some insight into why she is so driven. Uh, as a person, as a journalist, who she
right,
is. Um, it gives us that kind of you peel that layer back.
right.
Um, the episode where they really focused on the two of them, I thought was really well done.
Yeah,
Um, and of course, I guess kind of had to happen to get him out of the picture for a little while so that
right,
the rest of the season can happen.
right,
But yeah, that those first few episodes where he was just kind of there,
right.
uh, it was like this is obnoxious. Come on, let's figure
Yeah.
something out.
Um, Lex Luthor, very interesting, character. Um, I like it. It just can't stay this way, right? Because
Yeah,
while he is very smart and he is very technical, okay, all right. Um, he's definitely not he's definitely a bit too irrational, at this point. And so just like maybe this young version of Superman is not like a leader and he's naive, this young version of Lex Luthor is very impetuous and easily angered, and not that Lex Luthor's not easily angered. It's just I think Lex Luthor, I think, a plan that's about 15 layers deep, with with chess moves and all these different projects in secret that nobody knows of.
Mhm.
I think of Lionel Luthor than Lex Luthor Rosenbaum. I think a little bit deeper. And this character is a little too like Jesse Eisenberg for me. So
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that is just they gave him hair. Um, I'm with you. My when I think Lex Luthor, when he gets angry, it's under the surface. He does not
right,
let somebody see him sweat.
right, right.
That is who I picture as Lex Luthor. He's not going to let his enemies see that they've gotten under his skin. Um, and you're right. He's 15 moves ahead of everybody.
Yeah,
And so nothing should happen that catches him off guard. And so, but Superman's going to be the one to get under his skin, but
right,
he's still not going to show it. I
right.
feel like Lex Luthor, even knowing that Superman can detect his heartbeat and his blood pressure and his perspiration, would would have some kind of uh you know training in yoga or Zen
Just to try to make
something,
sure he couldn't.
just to make sure he stays level
Yeah, 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 yeah.
when he is internally stoking the fires of hatred for this
Right,
man.
right.
That's to me, that's Lex Luthor. He is always cool and collected. Um, Now I could see Lex Luthor losing his mind in private or taking it out on somebody, a subordinate or something who doesn't matter.
Still like never showing it. I mean, you think about Bruce Wayne and Batman, and you think about the two parts of Lex Luthor. Lex
Hmm.
Luthor has his front face that's public driven, that you know for the rest for the world they would consider this to be a good great man, right?
Yeah,
you know but then
yeah,
on the backside he is absolutely crazy and hateful, angry, evil, mean, just terrible, right?
yeah. I wouldn't say crazy. I think Lex Luthor is completely sane.
I don't know. But it depends on it depends on some of the things we've seen. When you look at him, I think he is extremely paranoid about Superman's
Oh,
capabilities. You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
And he's
And so,
jealous.
and
He's
and there's a
envious.
great deal of obsession, about Superman in all the different ways. So to me, there's a whole lot there, but you're right. He is on the front. It wouldn't show this way. But again, we're talking about someone that we see in his 30s and 40s, right? When we're thinking
Yeah,
about him, we're not
right.
talking about,
This is
a
some 20-year-old kid.
23-year-old kid, who's just got who has been mentored under somebody who, is now a supervillain. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right,
So, but I also don't know how all of a sudden, oh, this is property of LexCorp. I'm just like, cool, where'd you get that money, buddy? You know what I
right.
mean? Was that Amanda Waller's money?
Was this
Or
a some kind of startup that we
did
didn't
you
hear about?
did
Do a
you do a
Kickstarter
little
campaign?
Kickstarter? Like, okay,
I mean,
I
it's the
should just
21st
do that.
century, man. He started a GoFundMe and then bam, world's youngest billionaire.
Is that how you do it? Because maybe I should just I should just go to a building and be like, this is now Landon Core, and then you know, and
Oh,
maybe people just go, oh, okay, here's the deed,
you know what? It worked for Columbus, right? Dude
Yes.
sails up. There's people here. Apparently, like this property is owned by somebody, but you know what? I'm claiming it for Spain.
He's like,
Whatever.
yeah, whatever. Oh my
That's
gosh.
see, that's how you celebrate Columbus Day. You go to your next door neighbor's house and be like, "This is mine now. I live here." And while you're at it, go ahead and give your neighbor smallpox. Just to be sure.
I don't even know what to say to that. But anyways, so it'd be interesting to see where the show goes from here. But I enjoyed it. So it just ended, right? So we've got Oh
Yeah.
wow.
But I did see yesterday. I don't know if they were. I didn't read anything. I just saw a headline. But apparently Jack Quaid put on social media somewhere that they are recording. Uh, they're already recording the voice over for season 3.
Oh, that's great. Good show. Yeah,
So
I
it'll
could keep
it'll be
watching.
here soon.
It's so easy to watch because they're like just anybody who's thinking about watching the show, they're like 22 minutes, right? And it's just easy. You can just roll it, in the background, but it's kind of a fun, plucky show. And yeah, the animation's fun, characters are fun, got a fun dynamic.
It's
Worth
got me
watching.
into anime. I'll be honest. Like I've been interested in exploring
A little bit
more
more.
of that kind of genre
Yeah.
and just to see because I know so many people who get into anime and really enjoy it. And I've seen several of the like the Studio Ghibli um animated movies that come out of Japan and like My Neighbor Totoro and Howl's Moving Castle, and they're so good and they're so the art is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I just don't make time to get involved with things like that. But you hear people talking about Dragon Ball and One Piece and it's like, how do you have time to watch all these? They're like thousands of episodes. It's
Well,
like,
I'm sure people
man,
would ask how do we had time for some of the things we're watching
well,
too.
that's true. That's true. You make time for what you make time for, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. So let's move on to our pop culture pulse. We're going to break down the latest news in the world of entertainment. Landon, have you heard about the potential Bane and Deathstroke team up movie that may
What?
be in the works at DC Studios?
I've not heard that. Tell me.
All right. Well, I just saw this yesterday. It's according to the Hollywood Reporter, which I don't know how trustworthy they are. But Matthew Orton, who has I think he did all the heavy lifting on writing Captain America: Brave New World, the newest Captain America that's coming out. He is set to write the script. Honestly, I'm gonna say we should take this with a grain of salt until James Gunn confirms it. But I mean, man, what do you think about the idea of having these two villains sharing the big screen,
Yeah,
especially
I
if
mean,
Batman isn't involved?
yeah, it may not be so bad. I mean, it depends on who they cast and how they go with the depth. You and I talked about Bane in a recent podcast about how Bane has been visually misconstrued on the live depictions as some brute, some dumb block brute. But as we both know, Bane is very intelligent. Bane is a force, not to be reckoned with. You know, both in size, but also just in I mean, he's like I think of him like what are they? They're Craven from Spider-Man 2, you
Mhm.
know? I think of him as being just this force, but a smart force.
Yeah.
So it depends. If you do it that way, great. With Deathstroke, again, it depends on the casting. If you make them dumb, it won't be good, I think.
Right.
If you make them both intelligent and thoughtful, a true mercenary, for Deathstroke. I mean, there's so much to Slade Wilson. There's so much to Slade Wilson that can
Oh
be
yeah.
done,
Yeah.
and you see a great, even if you look at the Titans storyline, or you look at the comics, or I think that there's plenty there. So there's potential.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have Deathstroke as at worst, he is a mercenary villain. Absolutely, like there are few, if any, redeeming qualities to him. But there have been times when he gets his own title, he is an anti-hero. He's still out there. He's doing the job that a hero would do. He's just doing it on his own terms.
Right.
Whereas Bane, he's a villain. Like there's no getting around it. Like
Right.
I don't remember any stories where Bane. I think there have been times where he and Batman have been forced to take the same side, on
Oh, really?
things. Um, I want to say like during the No Man's Land story arc.
That's
Um,
great. He's like, you broke my back. We're not going to be besties, you
yeah,
know?
I'm not gonna braid your hair. Um, yeah, it would have to be a really compelling story, and you got to give me a good reason why these two are connecting.
Right.
Because they don't have a natural connection through the comics, other
Yeah,
than they've both faced Batman.
I've got to say, I am far more interested in depth of character at this point than I am
Yeah,
plot. I've
yeah.
never been so. I mean, I've always cared about plot, good storyline, everything like that. But oh my gosh, you really need deep, strong actors, and good character and character writing to go with it that can really get you invested in characters in order for anything to work anymore. It's just mm.
Yeah.
So I hope it works out. I have my own little news.
Oh yeah.
Um, so today, as of this airing, which is the 29th, I think, whatever it is, this is the premiere of season 2 of Dixon, Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead. It's the spinoff
Oh,
for
that's
Walking
right.
Dead. And so this is the season of which we'll get Daryl Carroll reconnection, apparently. So
Nice.
uh super great show. If you have watched all The Walking Dead, awesome. If you watched Fear the Walking Dead, sorry. But if you're wanting to watch anything fun now, Daryl Dixon and probably that more than the city, Dead City. Although I like Dead City, Daryl Dixon in France is beautiful and wonderful, worth watching, and I'm excited about the second season.
Isn't shoot, what's her name from Harry Potter?
You betcha she
Fleur,
is.
Fleur
Fleur de la
Delacour.
Cour. She's great. She's a really great actress. So yeah, you get a little Fleur de la Cour. She and not no spoilers here, but she's a nun in the premiere and of the season 1. And so their journey, very interesting journey. And someone might look on it from the exterior and go, how do you get to France? But it's actually they do it pretty well on what the purpose is as it comes to it. As it becomes more and more, you become more and more aware of it.
I'll have to give it a
Beautiful.
shot. I haven't seen the first season yet.
It's really
But I
good.
think it's on Max now, so or maybe
Netflix.
Netflix. It's on
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Season 1's on Netflix. Season 2 is accessible on AMC Plus.
gotcha. All right. One more thing before we move on to the recommendation corner. Um, Joker, Folie à Deux.
Good
I don't
idea.
I don't speak the French, so let's go say in Joker 2 is coming out October 4th. That's next week. Um, as of recording this, by the time this comes out, it may be already out. Are you excited to see this movie?
Yeah, but only because I'm walking into it with certain expectations. First of all, I don't look at this as any sort of Joker like from DC Comics. I don't I don't I don't look at it that way at all. I see Joaquin Phoenix playing, an abused person who becomes, you know, abusive. And I'm looking at it as probably a lady who drinks his Kool-Aid, and so I like the archetypes that it's coming from because those are great storylines, but I cannot I refuse to allow myself to go into a DC Joker and Harley Quinn mindset on them.
Yeah, it's definitely an Elseworlds kind of take
Yes.
on your Joker. I don't know if we've discussed this before, but I thought that the first movie was brilliant. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that Joaquin Phoenix absolutely earned his Oscar for that role.
very much so.
Um, but I have not seen it since the first time I saw it in the theater, and I don't think I want to see it again. It was so disturbing. So now the question is, if I'm not willing to watch the original one again, do I go see the second one
First of all, you should be
out of
willing to watch the
curiosity.
original again. It wasn't
It
so
was
disturbing that you
so
couldn't watch.
disturbing, man.
It
Freaked me
wasn't
out.
so disturbing. I watched Deliverance, not the old one, the new one that's on Netflix. That was
There's a new
disturbing.
Deliverance.
It's not like squealing like a big boy. It's not like that kind of deliverance. It's about an exorcism. Um,
Oh,
and it's on Netflix, I think. Anyway, that was disturbing. You
either
know,
way, Deliverance is disturbing. No, I mean, whatever.
Midsummer, that's disturbing. This was
Yeah, I
not
can't watch that again
disturbing.
either.
It was, I won't watch that again. But
Hereditary, I won't watch again.
why do we even have to say the name? Why do we have to say it? Why? I didn't say it on purpose. But this Joker you could watch again, and I will, before watching the other one. And I think that Lady Gaga, she's a great actress.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think
She's
she's gonna
going
nail it.
to, yeah, she is going to nail it.
This
It's going to be hard to
this is
see
gonna
who's
be
going to
a
be better.
new version of Harley Quinn that we've never seen before. I love Margot Robbie in the role. I think she's done great.
Sure.
But this is, as far as this gritty early 80s version of Joker goes, I think that Lady Gaga is going to bring something completely different to the role that is nothing like we've ever seen before. So I am excited to see that and to see them together, and to see how this plays out, really.
Well,
Because you're left with the original one, you're left wondering uh what really happened in this movie.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. What truly happened in it?
Because we're seeing it all from his perspective, but he is not a narrator that you can rely on.
No.
And so
Which
it's
kind
just
of
like,
means that they kind of can write their own ticket. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
mean, I
basically.
I to me it only makes sense. Again, I said it's not a DC, but if you're talking about character archetypes, he's got to be in front of her, and she is a licensed, you know, therapist or whatever. In my mind, that's how you approach this. And if you don't approach it that way, okay, then it's just all the more not that. But
Yeah.
to me, him, because of how they left it, him being in front of her and her being seemingly of sane mind, and then her not being that by the end of it, and even paralleling or even overarching him, that's the way to go. We'll see.
Well, we'll find out next week. All right, it's time for our recommendation corner this week. I've got something for the wrestling fans out there. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, I got into wrestling for a little bit during high school, during the whole Hollywood Hogan thing on
Uh,
WCW and Sting dropping down from the ceiling with a baseball bat and taking out the NWO.
oh, I know what you're
Um,
gonna say.
so
Go.
there was a thing that I actually watched this weekend on Netflix.
The
They dropped a
documentary.
new 6 episode docu-series called Mr. McMahon. It chronicles the rise, fall, rise again, and the recent controversies following Vince McMahon, who, win, lose, or draw, he's the guy who turned the WWE into the global phenomenon that it is. Um, Landon, any interest in checking that out?
I've, I mean, I too, I'm a Hulk Hogan fan, when we were growing up, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. If I'm gonna watch theater, I think I'll watch theater.
It was interesting. I watched all 6 episodes over the weekend. It wasn't bad. It was entertaining. And a lot of things that I remember happening growing up. It showed like the classics, where they thought, okay, our big idea for WrestleMania 3 is we bring in Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
and that was huge. It was a
That
huge
was a
fight.
big deal. Yeah.
And so you get behind the scenes from Hulk Hogan's perspective. They're interviewing him about that whole fight, and he's like, they never said which one of us is supposed to win, and so it's just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And Andre, he's got a bad back now. I don't want to hurt him. And
Right.
he said we're standing there in the ring, and I hear Andre going, slam. And he's like, "You want me to body slam you?" And sure enough, that's what happens. Hulk Hogan body slams Andre the Giant and wins the fight. I mean, it was really interesting to see some of those behind the scenes kind of things.
Wow.
But yeah, if you've ever been a fan of wrestling, especially if you ever got into world world wrestling entertainment or whatever it is, um,
Sure.
at some point, it's been a 40-year journey. Vince McMahon is uh I don't know. I think of him as a despicable human being, but is that a character he plays, or is that who he is in real life?
Yes.
Um, yeah, that's the thing. Like the whole documentary is like it's about how he has blurred the lines between reality and fiction, and it's like so what is it? Is he this guy that he presents himself to be? When he is in the ring, or is he just this businessman who is behind the scenes doing crazy things? Who
Yes.
knows? That's right. It's always yes. All right. Lena, do you have any recommendations this week? Or was
Oh,
Daryl
just the
Dixon your
Daryl Dixon. Yeah.
recommendation?
Yeah, that's the one.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of the Show. Next time, we're going to be diving into the best and worst of classic TV reboots. You're not going to want to miss that, especially if you have anything to say about classic TV reboots. There's been a lot of them over the years. Some are good, some are awful. But as always, thank you for your time, your energy, and for listening and viewing. If you enjoyed the show, remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends because they might like it too. So until next time, have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.
Bye bye.